Hello writers, come write with me. My name is Michaela Greenwood. I create worlds for mind adventures. Welcome to my channel, Write with Michaela. Don't forget to like and subscribe and hit the bell so you can go on this journey with me. If this is your first time joining me, I'm excited to have you here on my channel. If you've been with me from the beginning or somewhere along the journey, I'm really glad you are returning, especially with all the noise I've had with the microphone. I don't know how you've stayed with me, but I'm very happy that you've stayed. I'm very grateful that you've stayed. Very glad. Today is story time, or the day of our chapter exchange. If you're writing with me and you wish to exchange chapters, then send your chapter with written permission to writewithmichaela@gmail.com. I will post the email address at the end of the video and in the description below. I'm looking forward to reading your chapters. All chapters or writing prompts read on the channel, whether they are mine or another writer's work, are copyright protected material, and no one may use any part in writing their own stories. This story is PG-13, so if you are under 13 years of age, you need parental guidance. The story is in its rough draft stage, just as the last stories that we've heard. The title of this story is Elloni's Pride, and today we are reading chapter 3 out of book 3. If you would like to read along, then send to the email I stated earlier, request a PDF of the chapter. Make sure you are specific. I have lots of episodes, lots of chapters, so please be specific. Now let's start Elloni's Pride, book 3, Gaining Freedom, chapter 3, Sighting the Enemy. In the morning, Aldemnia and Kala led several girl linkers out, and they rode their dragons in flight. Since the girls seemed to wake up early, they took the morning shift. They flew the whole length of the mountain range, to the west, to the east. They flew on the south side of the mountains, and then they flew on the north side of the mountains. They each kept their eyes peeled for anything unusual. Normally, it was nice and quiet, and the morning air was always cooler than the afternoon. Aldemnia and Kala thought to the other at the same time. I think I see something. Both glanced at each other and at the approaching dots. Well, we can do invisibility, thought Aldemnia. Let's land and watch. I agree, and we can think to our families, Browser and King Fate, thought Kala. They landed in the mountains and cast their charm of invisibility. They each thought to several people in a group, but they both included King Fate. King Fate had been overseeing things when he received the thoughts. Hold on, he thought. I'm getting a vibration. I'm going to sit. After a few minutes, he sat and made a conference with the two separate thoughts and asked where they were. He realized they were very close together, so that eased his mind in some ways. As King Fate waited while the two girls watched, he added more people to the conference. Several soldiers and commanders rushed to put out fires, and linkers on the ground cast charms on the smoke to make it invisible. Soflin cast a charm on the gardens to make them invisible. If dragons landed, then there wouldn't be much she could do to protect the gardens, but she would at least hide them. She was glad this was the first time they were doing this for real. Now it felt like all the drills that King Fate had them do had been worthwhile. King Fate was very glad that Cinder had offered to show some kingdom men the destruction. That had helped, because if not, then the people might feel coerced right now. But he noticed all around him the people were quiet, and even though most of them had casted charm for invisibility, he knew they were heading inside. There were 5 riders on 5 black dragons, and 2 landed in between where Aldemnia and Kala were. King Fate thought to them, stay calm. They don't know you're there. Maybe they're just looking for food. King Fate-Right had been right. One soldier spotted a rabbit, chased it toward the other soldier. Then the rabbit ran zigzag and straight for Kala. Kala's dragon lifted into the air while Kala kept them invisible. She thought, Browser said they would feel the wind from our dragons. We had to lift up so they wouldn't run into us. Stay calm, thought King Fate-Right. The rabbit has their focus. Perhaps the wind from your dragon hasn't alerted them. The soldiers did have arrows, so the rabbit made it down in its hole. The soldiers mounted again and flew on west along the range of mountains. King Fate-Right advised them to fly behind, but to stay invisible and not get too close. Trenton ran out to the garden area, and he looked around. He didn't see anyone. He thought to his dragon to come. Before he mounted, King Fate-Right intercepted him. What are you doing? Aldemnia is pregnant. I have to help my wife, stated Trenton. Our enemy hasn't spotted or felt Aldemnia or Kala. They are learning what they are doing, stated King Fate-Right. I think they are looking for food. Wasn't it you that followed them 2 months ago to see what they were doing, and they were looking for food? Trenton paused. I think that was Bradley, or Sir Bradley. I've never flown far from the mountains. Okay, well, I was in a conference with them, and everything is fine so far, so we aren't going to call war yet. Trenton nodded. King Fate-Right walked back to where he had sat down, and he sat again. Trenton just started pacing. After a little while, he realized that was what his dad used to do, or still did. Then he remembered he was supposed to be invisible, so he cast the charm. After several more minutes, Trenton headed back inside. He had left his daughter with his father, Hector, so he would get her and take her back to their cavern. As he walked down the tunnel, he bumped into someone and he felt them fall back. He and Libya both became visible. Oh, Libya! Lydia! Libya, replied Libya. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to bump into you, stated Trenton. That's okay, replied Libya. Mama wants me to look for Nellie. Have you seen her? Trenton shook his head, and they both headed on their way. Libya made it out to the garden, and she walked to the bench where King Fate-Right would sit if he were in a conference. While out there, she looked up in the sky and didn't see any dragons, so she became visible. I see you, stated King Fate-Right. What is it? Libya cast the charm again to become invisible. Nellie, she said. King Fate-Right sighed. That child. Check the outhouses, stated Soflin as she walked up, but neither King Fate-Right nor Libya saw her. Libya headed to the outhouses. Everyone knew if Nellie was with her dragon, she would be fine, but she hadn't learned many charms yet, so someone needed to cast or spread the charm over her. Nina could do it, but Nina herself was young and didn't have a lot of magic. Libya ran out of the northern entrance and she saw the outhouses, and they weren't invisible. She thought to Soflin the issue. Soflin thought to Felicity to find Marley to see if she was in labor, and if so, who could turn the outhouses invisible. Felicity started thinking with all the tailors and found, yes, Marley was in labor and had been all morning. She thought to Soflin they would handle the outhouses this time. Then she thought the request to Daunter and told him to get a group to handle it if necessary. Libya ran on past the outhouses to the woods that were a short distance ahead. After she entered the woods, she saw Nina looking panicked. Libya looked ahead and saw Nellie tangled in a few vines and bramble. Libya dropped her charm and helped Nellie out of the mess. Then she took her hand and started running back to the mountains. Stay with me and you'll stay invisible, she said, as she once again cast the charm. Nellie liked being invisible, so she ran with Libya. Nina was happy, and she fluttered along behind. She cast an invisibility charm on herself. Soon, Aldemnia and Kala were reporting that the riders were flying back south. They had picked some berries and wild mushrooms, and then they left. Aldemnia and Kala thought they would return to hunt the rabbit and King Fate-Right agreed. King Fate-Right became visible, and he reached out his hand for Soflin's hand. It seems they are hungry. Soflin became visible and said, yes, that's what Bradley reported when he helped the last linkers. Yes, it was Bradley, chuckled King Fate-Right. I remember now, Browser saying, oh, I forgot. I have to take Bradley to get some bananas. Then he took Bradley and they came home with several bunches of bananas. Yes, I remember John Snyde thought Browser had wanted to do that before, but he ate the whole bunch. Soflin laughed behind her hand. I can't imagine eating a whole bunch of bananas. King Fate-Right shook his head. Me either. I need to let everyone know that the enemy has flown south. He thought the status through the conference. Okay, writers, that is the end of chapter 3. Leave a comment on how you would feel if your wife were pregnant and out flying rounds when soldiers came. Leave a comment on how you would feel if you had been Kala and the enemies started running towards you. Even if you had been on a dragon and even if you had been invisible, how would you feel if you see the enemy? Maybe they don't see you, they don't know you're there. How would you feel if he's just running towards you? And you know from another scene in the book that if two people are invisible, they hit each other, they fall back like Trenton and Livia. So the soldier runs into the dragon, he's going to run into the dragon. So how would you feel? Would you be scared? Even if you were invisible? Leave a comment on if you know a child like Nayli. Nayli just goes off and does her own thing, can't keep track of that child. She doesn't know danger, she doesn't know yes, she doesn't know no. She knows invisible, I want to be invisible, so that's a good thing. So, leave a comment on a child like that if you know a child like that. Also, leave a comment on how many bananas you can eat at one time. I eat half to a whole banana. If I put it in a juice and I juice it, I might could do 1.5 bananas. But only if they were small bananas. Sometimes, lately my husband's been getting these big old fat bananas. Like, oh, it's so hard to eat. Just can't even eat just one. My daughter, she could eat at least 2 bananas at a time. She'd just peel them and eat them, peel them and eat them. She'd just eat bananas. So leave a comment. How many bananas can you eat? And join me Tuesday for vocabulary and part 18 of your cave story. Join me Friday for chapter 4 of Elloni's Pride, Gaining Freedom. Visit my website, bymckella.com, and read some character bios. If you read some, then leave a comment on which ones you've read, or go read a blog post on my coach's blog, authorkristenlam.com, and leave a comment on a blog you read and how you think the post will help you with your writing. All your comments. I keep telling you, leave a comment, leave a comment, leave a comment. After each piece, after each vocabulary word, after each writing, I always tell you, leave a comment. Why? Because all your comments will help us start conversations, build our communities, and give us ideas so that we can do some more writings. Especially, we keep comments respectful. Remember that it comes from someone else's perspective, and then know that that perspective can help you with your writing. Maybe you don't see eye to eye, but maybe you can kind of glean enough of that perspective to write it to where it's believable for your reader that that's the perspective. Now, don't forget to hit the like and subscribe and the bell so we can continue to write together and other people will have a higher chance finding this video and this channel, and your likes will push the video out to a greater audience. Thank you for joining me today. I really appreciate your participation. I appreciate you staying with me. If you know someone who would like this video, then please share it with them. That's how we build the community, is if you share it with people. This is Michaela with Write with Michaela. Bye for now.